In my previous video, I had mentioned that with the purchase of the Prospector, you could basically print your own money in Star Citizen. But in my rush to show you how to do it, I utterly failed and did a pretty lackluster job in doing exactly that. I maintain that whether you paid real-world cash for access to the mining gameplay by purchasing either the Prospector or Mole, that you can make a lot of money in a very short time. This old gamer Toilet Duck here, and today we're going to be spending about 30 minutes in-game and mine some Quantanium for maximum profit. Why Quantanium, you might ask? Well, at the end of my previous video, I detailed my what to mine key list, and it's pretty clear that Quantanium, being the new kid on the block with regards to mineable ore, is worth the most money. By a lot. And with good reason. Quantanium is defined as a tiny, delicate, and highly unstable mineral that can be harvested and ultimately refined into quantum fuel. However, once mined, Quantanium degrades with time, and any sudden maneuvers or impacts to the ship transporting it will cause it to degrade even more quickly. And as I mentioned before, once it degrades to a certain extent, it will explode, forcing you to either eject into space your hard-earned spoils or explode with it. With great risk comes great reward. Step 1 is about finding the ore. Now this can take the longest and is easily what chewed up the majority of my 30-minute game clock. Finding the right rock to mine can be tricky with some ores, as you'll often come across something that will have a low percentage of the material you're looking for even after you crack the rock. And at that point it becomes kind of an internal argument about continuing on to find another rock that is better or just taking what you can get. Stay the course. Keep looking for that Quantanium, because just about any amount of it is worth it. See my end profit screen for proof. After a solid 20 minutes of searching though, I stumbled across this beauty. Over 10% Quantanium in an uncracked rock with a mass, instability, and resistance at reasonable rates. Yes, please. Now I'll go into mass, instability, and resistance in more detail in a future video, but in short, the mass of a rock specifies the quantity of material that can be extracted from it. The more massive the rock, the more power you will need to crack it, however. And resistance is how much of the stone will resist the power you're pouring into it. Resistance and mass seem to work together in determining how hard a rock is to break. It's entirely possible to not be able to put any power in a rock because either the mass or the resistance are too high. Instability is an indication of how much the power you are pouring into a stone will fluctuate. The higher the value, the more fluctuations can occur, which means you have to react more quickly to changes. Each of the various mining heads have a reaction time. Some are faster than others. I'll go more into mining heads later. As with mining any other rock, the trick is getting the rock energy level indicator within the green arc. And that green arc was somewhat small with this rock. The more valuable the ore, the smaller that arc will be, and you can use different mining heads and consumables in order to change things about the rock you're mining. In fact, you saw me use a couple different consumables during my initial cracking of the rock. The first one I used was a rind consumable, which was a mistake. I accidentally wasted a consumable, which is designed to take power out of the rock, and it took me a second to realize what I had done. Once I realized that, I did push the optimum consumable, which widens that green arc and made the rock a lot easier to break open. I'll go into consumables more later. Once you have the initial hurdle of cracking the rock, it becomes about planning out the rest of the pieces. Now note, because each chunk will have a lower mass than the initial rock, it'll be much easier to break them going forward. So don't start by pouring full power into them immediately. Ask me how I learned that lesson. Generally speaking, you want to break all the yellow rocks down into blue extractable rock chunks before actually pulling anything in, especially with Quantanium, since once you extract any amount of Quantanium into your ship's hopper, you're on a pretty short clock. I was already on a fairly short clock at this point, as I was rapidly approaching 25 minutes of my 30-minute window, so I had to hurry up and take what I could get. And yes, you just saw me use the optimum consumable again because that chunk's green arc was tiny. Consumables and different mining heads can make your life a lot easier. Each one does something different, however I found that the must-have mining head is the Helix, and the must-have consumable is the Optimum. both of which are very expensive, and you may have to work your way up to them, which you absolutely can do, unless you're renting. Yeah, the major downside to renting the Prospector is that you are stuck with the default mining head, the size 1 Arbor MH1. That means no consumables. Sorry guys. You can crack Quantanium rocks with an Arbor, but it's difficult and you have to shop around for a rock that's mass resistance and instability isn't too high. With the Arbor mining head, there will be rocks you simply can't break no matter what you do. At that point, you're better off mining a mineral that's not as hard or working up to buying a Prospector in-game using the in-game currency instead of renting one. Though at this point, with this still being an alpha and the possibility of character wipes or resets still present, I might recommend trying another gameplay since a Prospector costs about 2 million alpha UEC to purchase. At this point, running out of my self-imposed time limit, I start hoovering up the quantum ore. I do go ahead and crack a couple more chunks of the rock that don't have the Quantanium just to get some of the barrel, so I'm not rushing back to Port Olisar with a half-empty cargo hold. Normally, barrel is firmly in my don't bother range of mineable rocks, but I already know that in order to meet my 30-minute goal, I had no time to find another rock with Quantanium in it. And, keeping in mind once again, once you have Quantanium in your cargo pods, you are on a clock. And a short one. I think someone said it was 30 minutes before it blew up, but I've had the Vol to Ore warning buzzer go from yellow to red in far less than that, so I don't risk it. I don't actually know what the time frame is, but it seems short and somewhat random, especially considering that any trauma to the ship could cause the ore to destabilize more quickly. Your best bet is to get it offloaded ASAP. This is why I say Yella is your friend. You can land at Port Olisar and sell your ore from the Rings of Yella in about 3 minutes. I've also never found Quantanium anywhere else in the system, though many people say it's on all the moons. I just haven't found it there. I don't think there's a single place that you can go from, land, and sell faster than the Yella Port Olisar route. Comment down below if you know of one. So, how'd we do? Not quite 130,000 alpha UEC in 30 minutes. Far more inert material than I'd like, but Quantanium is so valuable, it's absolutely worth it. And the little bit of barrel I mined actually pays for the optimum consumable I use. The rest is pure profit. Now, I'd love to tell you this is 100% doable every 30 minutes and that you can totally do it too, but, well, no, it's not, especially if you're renting the Prospector. Let's be honest, I got really lucky. I just happened to find a really good rock to mine and spent only 20 minutes finding it. I've actually spent hours before and not found a rock anywhere near that good. It's really random, as it should be. I also have the right mining head and consumable already installed. I have my physical IRL play space and hardware set up to allow for rapid changes of power input, and I've been mining since the game loop came out. Practice makes perfect, but I doubt I could do this again if I set 30 minutes to do it. Maybe. This was my honest first attempt at this 30-minute challenge, and all the various stars aligned while I was filming it. But it does make my point, albeit in a rather heavy-handed fashion. With the Prospector or Mole in Star Citizen, you can basically print money. It can be a little grindy, but if you enjoy the hunt and search, then you can do very well. Thanks a bunch, everyone. This old gamer Toilet Duck here. I'll see you next time.